Well, it's time now to discuss the big stories this week in federal politics with three MPs from the different parties. Marco Mendicino is a Liberal MP for the Toronto riding of Eglinton Lawrence. Dane Lloyd is a Conservative MP for the Alberta riding of Sturgeon River Parkland. And Sheila Malcolmson represents the BC riding of Nanaimo Ladysmith. All three of you, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Let's start with an issue which came up a lot this week, and it continues to be the talk of the town. And I know a lot of MPs are saying that they're going to be going back to some questions, continuing questions about it. Marco Mendicino, this is a story about StatsCan and their plan to collect the personal identifiable banking data of about 500,000 Canadians this year. There's been so much concern expressed over this, including by the Privacy Commissioner, who's launched an investigation. What do you tell Canadians who are wondering why and are concerned about this?
We tell Canadians that we place the utmost importance on their privacy. It's a concept and a principle that's enshrined in the Charter. It's one that runs through many of our laws, and it's there to safeguard their interests. In the context of this particular initiative, which is a pilot project at this stage where no data has yet been collected, we want to assure them that the Chief Statistician of StatsCan is working very closely with the Privacy Commissioner, as you alluded to in your introductory remarks. This is a good thing. It will assure Canadians that we continue to safeguard their privacy as we collect evidence in a very responsible way. And I just want to point out that on the history of this file, when you look back to the last Conservative government, theirs was the one that reduced resources and killed the long form under StatsCan. They muzzled scientists by laying many of them off. And we reversed that by reinstituting the long form. This essentially put many, many towns and rural parts of Canada back on the map. And with that evidence and with those statistics, we continue to plan in a way that's thoughtful and responsible and evidence-based.
Okay, Dane Lloyd, your take on this. What do you think? I mean, obviously your party's been raising this. The StatsCan assures people this is totally legal and that the information will be made anonymous at some point, and their track record has been very good in terms of not breaching anyone's privacy.
Well, I'll tell you, in my riding and what we're seeing from across the country is that the government has really touched a nerve with Canadians on this issue. I've received a flood of concerned constituents about having their banking information being given to StatsCan and the government, and they're concerned that their privacy isn't being respected, that this decision was made without consultation with Canadians, without their consent and without their knowledge, and Canadians are rightly concerned about this government's move, which came with no prior consultation. The former Chief Statistician, Wayne Smith, has raised some concerns with the security of Shared Services Canada being able to protect this data. And now we see the Privacy Commissioner launching an investigation into this. So I'm very concerned.
Sheila Malcolmson, what do you make of it? What does your party make of this?
We're also hearing lots back at home, people saying this is unprecedented intrusion into people's personal, private information. It doesn't line up with the Liberal government's promises about transparency and protection of privacy. It doesn't equate to the government's restoration of the long-form census and unmuzzling scientists, as my Liberal friend says. I mean, those are important policies that, of course, we need, and we very much applauded undoing the damage that the Conservative government had done. But this is a whole new world and a completely separate step. And New Democrats want to see the program killed. And we applaud the fact that the Privacy Commissioner is going to launch an investigation, and everything should be stopped until that investigation is complete.
Okay, so I just want to be sure. It's the NDP. I know you hadn't really mentioned this much during the week, but I know today you were up on this in question period. So the NDP is now calling for this to be stopped as well. You want this whole program, this particular experiment, to be stopped?
Yeah, we've been talking about it all week with constituents. We only have so many questions in question period, and the Conservatives are certainly taking a lot of airtime on that one. So there's common cause there.
Okay, Marco Mendicino, how do you then, you've given us some assurances. How do you assure Canadians that this is not, there seems to be a growing opposition to it? And Mr. Lloyd mentioned, for example, Wayne Smith, the former statistician at Statistics Canada. He's sort of saying that a better case has to be made. And the Privacy Commissioner told me yesterday, a better case has to be explained to Canadians. You think you have a public relations problem here?
Well, Canadians are right to be concerned about their privacy, and particularly as we start to leverage new technology and innovations. But what I would say to them is, in response, take a look at the record of Statistics Canada and all of the good work that they do in collecting evidence in a way that is consistent with the principle of protecting people's privacy. I want to underscore that this is a pilot project phase right now, so there will be consultation, obviously, between the Chief Statistician and the Privacy Commissioner. The Privacy Commissioner is separate and apart from the elected branch of government. The Commissioner's responsibility is to ensure that all initiatives, all legislation, all statutes are in conformity with the high standard of protection for privacy that Canadians expect. So the dialogue between those two branches, plus the debate, plus the questions that are being asked in question period, which are completely within the purview of opposition, provide the sufficient level of transparency that we need on this topic, and obviously it will be an ongoing one.
Okay, quick question, just in one or two words, because I want to get to another subject, but to you, Mr. Mendicino. If, for example, I spoke with the Privacy Commissioner yesterday, and he said that, you know, he's looking into the legality of it. There's a lot of suggestion that this will be found to be legal, but he had prior suggestions that A, this got to be explained better, and B, that the information should be scrubbed before it's even accessed. Is there a possibility that, given that the government might be ready to backtrack on this, to order StatsCan to abandon this project?
The government respects the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. We work closely with the Privacy Commissioner on a whole array of issues, and this is no exception to that rule. And we'll look forward to seeing whatever reports or submissions that he may make when it comes to this initiative. And obviously, we will be waiting very anxiously for the outcome of what is, I would say, a still very nascent stage of this pilot project, and we want to do so in a way that balances both our need to collect evidence and statistics so that we can plan responsibly, so that we can have legislation and policies that work for Canadians, that will continue to drive growth and prosperity, and also want to make sure that we balance their privacy interests as well, because that's very important.
Okay, quick question. Immigration levels. Your government announced this week that you're going to be setting a new level for 2021, 350,000 immigrants by 2021. What should Canadians make of the higher levels?
Well, Canadians understand and appreciate that this is a country that's built on immigration, and we should be very proud of it. There's scarcely a Canadian out there that doesn't have a personal story or a personal relationship where a member of the family wasn't born in a different country. Mine is no exclusion. I'm sure yours is the same. So let's start with that important fundamental value. This is a country that is built on immigration. Serious economists who look at our current levels will tell you that we need to get closer to that 1% of our total population mark. Our levels are consistent with the expert evidence and reports which have been submitted by economists. What I see regrettably from some of my colleagues in opposition, in particular in the Conservative Party, is that we're demonizing and in many ways ostracizing people who want to come to Canada for a better life. How are we doing that? Well, you see some of the negative advertisements which have been run by the Conservative Party of Canada in particular that they've had to pull back from. We need to steer clear of that kind of fear-mongering. We need to embrace immigrants, I beg your pardon, and aspiring new Canadians who want to contribute to the economy. They have done so for the last 151 years, and will continue to do so going forward.
Okay, Dane Lloyd, what's your reaction to the increased levels? Are they going to be steadily ramping up to 350,000 by 2021?
Well, you know, this is a clear case of what we're seeing, mudslinging from the Liberals. And, you know, I'll stand on our Conservative record any day of the week. We brought in a record number of immigrants into this country under Jason Kenney as the Citizenship and Immigration Minister. We cut back on the backlogs that were left to us by the previous Liberal government. And we have a very, strong record of support for immigrants and integrating immigrants into this country. But what we are going to keep attacking is this government's completely lackadaisical and incompetent actions in dealing with our illegal immigrant border crisis that we're having in Quebec, areas in Quebec and in Manitoba, where we have thousands of people crossing our border. We don't know who these people are. They haven't been deported, and they're costing our system a great deal. And this government has not taken sufficient action to deter these people from coming to Canada.
Okay, Sheila Malcolmson, we're going to be hearing a lot, something tells me, about immigration and immigration levels and the other connected issues. For the NDP, what do you make of what you heard yesterday with the announcements yesterday?
With an unprecedented number of displaced people around the world, 70 million, climate crises, civil war, we've got a lot of people that are in deep need. At the same time, Canada has a need for immigration, as we always have, and recognize that that's one of the pieces that builds our country. Canada's not it's good to see some increase in levels, absolutely. We're certainly not out of step, and we're not actually matching some of the immigration and refugee commitments that our European counterparts are making. The biggest thing I hear at home, though, in Nanaimo is the lack of services. So we've got families that wait for years with no benchmarks, no updates. They cannot reach a person on the phone at immigration to help them and let them know where their file sits. We're swamped with really desperate family stories, promises of family reunification that just there's no timeline for. People that say, I'm growing up without my children because this government just won't let me know where I sit in the queue. And very disappointed yesterday not to see any change to the caregiver class. People from other countries, in my region especially, a lot of people from the Philippines who come either to provide childcare or elder care for Alzheimer's patients and so on. They leave their families to come here and look after ours, yet when they ask to be able to move to permanent resident status, they wait years. It's not fair, and this government has made a lot of promises. We really wish that they were putting the public resources in to be able to actually process the demand that they've created and get the load off the backs of the NGOs like the Multicultural Society in Nanaimo that are doing hard work amid budget cuts.
Okay, on that
Martin,
note,
sorry,
yeah, just one last word.
Well, just the last word is that the facts bear out that we have taken in a record number of Filipino aspiring new Canadians. We've done so on the basis of being able to reduce backlogs. That's what the facts say. And contrary to what my Conservative colleague said, backlogs and delays grew under the Conservative government. They have shrunk, and in particular as it relates to the caregiver class, I just correct Sheila, we have committed to completely eradicating that particular category of backlog, and we hope to do so by the end of this year.
Well, we will watch that.
Okay.
Well, we're out of time, but we will watch that. We will follow this story. I want to thank all three of you for speaking with us, and as I say, we'll revisit this story. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.